For music selection, right? I'm thinking Yonkers or Philly. So I chose Philly because I think this is appropriate. You hear that?
Yeah, man.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
Hot.
It is warm.
Yeah.
It is definitely warm. So, how's your day?
Better than yesterday. Yes, coming off a long weekend in the middle of a pandemic, you think would be kind of quiet, but
You're busy.
Chaos.
Good.
Yeah, chaos.
Busy is good.
Today was good. I got a chance today to work on a little bit of, I always reserve a few projects in the shop that I'm really interested in working on, and then the other stuff I just give off to the boys. So today I got to work on a little bit of a vanity piece. So that's always a good day.
Cool. What's up, Ben? What's up, Hardwood Hippie? What's up, Rob DeMarco? We're gonna say hi to people as they come in.
All right.
I get kind of, I'm back and forth about whether or not I should do that. But Kid Sonzak, what's up? Nice Vice Metals, what's up? Best Tools RB, what's up? Bliss Woodworks, what's up? Upright Metalworks, what's up?
Hey, Andy.
Yep, say hello to them. Shout them out. All right, so I got I have some questions, but before that, I have some questions.
All right, shoot.
Phillies or Mets?
Well, that's one opinion.
It's a question. Who you with?
I love this city, man. I wish we were better at picking up our own trash. We're not
No. The Philadelphia Phillies or the New York Mets in baseball?
Oh, I thought you said Philly's a mess.
No, Phillies or Mets.
Phillies,
excuse
man.
my southern accent.
Phillies.
Eagles or Giants?
Eagles. What, do you want me to get my ass kicked when I leave here today?
Okay, so I know what the answer to that's going to be for all the questions, so we'll skip that.
All right.
All right, so let's go to the other questions. Do you have an overused phrase, a word?
An overused phrase. You should be asking the guys that work for me that. I'm sure they got like 20 of them.
So give me one.
That's my bailiwick.
That's what?
My bailiwick.
What does that mean?
Well, a lot of people these days say it's in my wheelhouse.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. What's up, Pop Studio? What's up, Beth?
Probably say rad a lot too.
Okay. All right. What is your least favorite thing to do?
My least favorite thing to do, be in the office.
Yeah. I would say that.
Be in the office, dealing with emails, answering phone calls. You know how this is. You don't get in. I didn't get into this business because the money was good. Because somebody said, "Hey, you need to pick a business." It's about the metalwork, and I'd always much rather be out here doing the metalwork.
All right.
See if I can set this up.
What's up, Sean Peterson? What's up, Jeff Whitney? What's up, Andrew? All right, so I need to stop saying that. What is your most favorite thing to do?
In the shop or in general, in life?
In life. These are life questions, not shop questions.
Well, life questions. Man, I got too many to pick one.
Come on, man. Your most favorite thing to do?
Be on the bike.
Motorcycle or bicycle?
Push bike. Bicycle.
All right.
Yeah.
Old bike or new bike?
New bike.
All right.
It's like you know, outside of business, that's where some of my oldest friendships are.
Okay.
You know, that community. And so for me, like, you know, being on the bike is also about everything that my life represents outside of myself as a blacksmith and as an artist, you know. It's another community of friends that I really value. So I think it's okay to do both.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. There's a guy that we're going to be talking to who does furniture and restores Harleys. So
oh yeah,
of course you can do both.
Yeah, for sure.
What is the one thing you would change about your spouse or significant other?
You know, she's probably watching this thing, so.
Listen, I'm going to say what I say to everybody. You can fumble or you can run a touchdown. What do you want to do?
Oh, man. Well, everybody that knows me will tell you the same thing, that I think the world of my wife, and I think she's as perfect, more perfect every day over the last 27 years, man. I'm a lucky guy. The only thing that would have been better about her is if she was rich. And then
she wouldn't be with you.
Yeah. Yeah. But, oh, look, she said good answer. Look at her. That's her right there, Beth Palini. Hi, Beth.
What's up, Beth? What makes you tick?
Man. Everything, you know, my family, this business, my friends, all of it together, really. You know, I think if one part of that is maybe missing, you know, like right now, the part of it that's missing is my friends and a lot of spending time with my friends. But all of those things together, I think, kind of add up to me feeling pretty proud of what I've put together over the last 20 years.
Who's your oldest friend?
Oh, man. Friend that I see every day, or a friend that I've...
No, because I got friends I don't see.
Oh, friends that I see,
Friends, your oldest friend.
Probably friends from high school.
And you can still call them on the phone?
No, it's mostly texting or social media, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But some of, like, you know, in Philly, I got this friend, John, you know, the metal guy. You know, he and I have known each other since we both started out in this business 25 or more years ago. Okay. I talk to him every day.
All right. What irks you the most?
Irks me the most?
Yep.
It depends on what day it is. Lately, I've been really upset about the amount of trash on the streets in Philly. That's been really getting under my skin, man.
So I didn't say that. You heard that. Philly's a mess.
It is a mess. Everybody's like, you know, nobody's working and nobody can put the fucking trash in the can, you know?
You know what they say, right? If it bothers you that much.
Yeah, I know. I just got to start picking up trash, but I don't know if it's got the Rona, you know? I don't want to touch it.
Right. You got to pick up trash and pick up more than trash.
Yeah, exactly.
What sound makes you happiest?
What sound?
Yes.
Man, yesterday I was sitting in my backyard just listening to all the birds, you know, and that made me pretty happy for about an hour. I love the sound of my forging hammers when they're running, you know, these self-contained pneumatic hammers. It almost sounds like a heart beating, you know, the way they run. And it's one of those sounds that I think the first time I heard it when I'm, you know, 25 or more years ago, it sounds just as exciting today, you know, as it did back then. It's never left me.
I kind of get the same thing.
Yeah.
Every time I go out of town, I come back and I see the skyline.
Oh, New York.
Yeah, every time I see the skyline, whether it's on the bridge, whether it's coming out of the tunnel, I see that and I get excited.
Yeah.
It never, ever gets old.
Yeah, yeah. It is exciting. You know, even when I go home and visit family, you know, and we come up the turnpike and that first glimpse of New York City, like there's still something deep inside of me that like recognizes that as home, even though I've not lived there
right
since 1989 or 1990, you know? I've spent more time outside of New York now that I'm almost, I'm almost 49 than I have when I lived there, through high school. But it still feels like home in a lot of ways. Yeah.
What's up, David Stein? Grip Wood Grain, Race Racks, Andrew Hayes Studio.
What's up, Andrew?
Anvillian, what's up?
Hey, Luke.
Jamal, what's up? Alican, what's up? He says nothing. What is your favorite cuss word? I think I got that, but go ahead.
Oh, man, I'm big into the F word.
That's what I picked up. What profession other than your own would you try? Would you like to try?
People make fun of me for this, but I would love to have a little breakfast restaurant.
A little breakfast next to right. You want to get short on the cook?
I grew up working in kitchens, and I always loved that work. I love the energy. I love food. I like to cook. I like how busy it can be. I kind of thrive on that chaotic busyness. And I always threaten, like if something ever happened to this business or there was a moment where I thought retirement, whatever retirement would look like, it would be having like a little open at 5, close at 1 kind of breakfast spot.
In the morning?
Always in the morning. Yeah, I'm up at 5 o'clock anyway.
All right, wow. What's up, Redux Wood, Foreign Forge? So I worked in a restaurant for 20 years. Man, being in that kitchen is, whew.
It's brutal.
And you talk about breakfast. Do you know how many different ways you can cook eggs?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but you know what I always say? That's where I learned my work ethic. That was the only job I ever had. Those years I worked in the kitchens as a kid, like there's no bullshitting. You're either hustling or you're out the door.
Yeah.
There's no faking it.
Yep, you're right. So with that being said, let's go there. Let's start from high school and let's travel to now, and then we'll talk about metal.
All right.
High school?
High school. Well, high school was Yonkers.
Yep.
I didn't start out as Yonkers, but I graduated from Lincoln High School.
Okay.
Over there off of Yonkers Avenue, if you know where that is.
No.
It's real close to Tibbetts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But, I started out going to Xavier in Manhattan.
Ah, okay.
I got thrown out of there in a year
For
and a
what?
half. I was a fuck up, man. I was a young punk kid. Had a lot of issues growing up, and I had a lot of issues with school. I wasn't a very good student from the time I was in grade school. It turns out I'm dyslexic, and I've got a lot of other what would now be considered behavioral problems, like ADD, ADHD.
I have dyslexic, the same thing.
But in the 70s, I went to a Catholic school, and in the 70s, I was just an asshole, and because I couldn't pay attention and learn at the same pace as the other kids, I was just bored and off in my own world, which constantly landed me in trouble. So in an attempt to salvage that, they sent me to Xavier, which had an ROTC program. I got thrown out of there in a year and a half. Then they sent me to Salesian, which was a Jesuit school. I got thrown out of there in 4 months. And at that point, my parents or my mother at that point was just like, fine, go to the local public school and rot, because this is New York public school system in the mid 80s.
Right.
Not so good.
Right.
And I actually did great, man. I got into AP classes, graduated with honors, got into the colleges I wanted to go to, and
wow.
Came together, But high school for me was rough, when I was in hanging out downtown and running with a crowd and getting into trouble and, all that stuff. Mostly because you often think, like, if I had been given the opportunity to use my hands and make things like I did much later, where would that have salvaged those years of my life, in a way that would have looked different? But from today's perspective, from this vantage point, I wouldn't change anything.
Right.
So I just had to go through that,
So where'd you go to college?
So I went to this little state school in Northeast PA called Kutztown University.
Okay.
And I have no good reason. Right. So I applied to SUNY Purchase and SUNY New Paltz and Pratt, but I had this wild hair up my ass that I wanted to leave New York for whatever reason.
Right.
And this was a small art school that seemed sufficiently far enough away. And I drove out there to visit it. And, you know, you drive along these country roads, and I was sold, you know. It was for the wrong reasons to pick a school. You know, it was based on an appearance and an idea of that fit, you know, that some presumption I had about where I wanted to be at that time. Not about how good the program was, how bad the program was, nothing.
So what was college like?
College was great. It was great. You know, I met all these people, you know, so I grew up in Yonkers, and I didn't grow up in a particularly nice part of Yonkers. And access to the country and access to country boy stuff just wasn't a big part of my upbringing. And so I get into Kutztown, and I'm going to school with all these rural PA kids, you know, that know how to go camping and fishing. And, you know, we do all this stuff that I never grew up doing. And so, you know, on the social side, the biggest impact was enjoying the outdoors and having access and opportunity to all this stuff that I never grew up doing. And then the people that I met. You know, the peer group that I had there in undergraduate school, and then some of the, you know, the adults that I met along the way really, really put me on a course for where I am today, you know, which has happened repeatedly in my life. You know, it's like, if I was thinking about it today, I'm like, what are the most significant things that changed my life for good? And it's always the people I've met along the way that have either seen something in me that, you know, that they saw value in, you know, or friendships, or
what's up, Trashman 36? That's one of your Philly brothers there.
Who's that?
Trashman 36.
Oh yeah, Ashley.
I know him as Trashman 36.
Oh yeah.
What's up, Ashley? So after college, then what?
Well, so when I was in college, well, I should back up for a minute. You know, I went to college for sculpture. I didn't really go to school for metalwork.
Okay.
I went for sculpture, and I got interested in metalwork while I was in school. And the kind of metalwork that I'm doing, big metal blacksmithing, wasn't really anything that was taught there. And then by chance, I got to meet who was at the time the blacksmithing coordinator at Peters Valley. This is 1989. 1994. And he was coming through town, this guy, Dan Radvin, wanders in through the sculpture program because he thought it would be interesting to see what was going on at the art school. He's passing through town and sees me in the studio struggling away. And you got to remember, in the early 90s, there's no internet, you know, and unless you are personally introduced into a community, you don't even know it's there. Exactly. I don't know there's other blacksmiths. I'm some young punk kid, you know, trying to figure it out on my own. And so this guy comes through, and this is like, the people I meet completely changes my life. So after college, I left and did the assistantship at Peters Valley Craft Center.
Go ahead.
For a whole summer. And back in those days, you know, I think the program is very different now. I don't even know if they hold assistantships like this anymore, but they would choose one summer assistant, and then you are the workshop assistant for 14 professional smiths that would come through there from June to September. It's like this blacksmithing that leaves your head spinning, you know? And back in those days, it was the best in the country, you know, like the who's who nationally. We're all invited to teach a 1-week or 10-day workshop at Peters Valley. And when I was there, I met a whole bunch of new people, you know, professional smiths that then helped guide me towards the next step, you know, and the next step was to go down to the Penland School in North Carolina, which you've probably heard of at this point, contemporary craft program. And I mean, I'm one of thousands of people who can say, man, I went to that place and everything turned around for me. You know, you get this glimpse into the craft world that isn't really well represented when you're in school. You know, these are professionals that are living in the neighborhood, living off the mountain in the community, like making for a living. You know, and there was a particular woman down there who ran the blacksmithing program, Elizabeth Brim, you know, and she's another person who, man, you know, one day somebody's going to put together a huge award in her name, because that woman has done more for up and coming smiths, especially of my generation, than anybody else. That one person, Elizabeth Brim, she's done more for anybody, like selflessly grabbing these young people and pumping them up and introducing them to people and encouraging them to apply for opportunities. She's a one of a kind, you know. And so she's the one that brought me down to Penland for 4 or 5 months while I was down there to assist a workshop with David Seacrest. And then this would be winter of 95, 96. And then the thing that really changed the whole direction of my life at that point is, you know, while I'm doing these assistantships and learning all this stuff, my wife gets pregnant. And so our son was born in the winter of 96. And that was then the beginning of a whole new chapter of...
Okay, let me ask. While you were in North Carolina, who was paying for this?
Nobody. These were assistantships. Like, these are free. Like, so these are the opportunities that, you know, there's very few of them available, but these are the opportunities that make young aspiring smiths, like, especially like me, because I'm a poor kid. You know, I paid my way through college. I had to work several jobs.
What about room and board?
Sorry?
What about room and board? All of that's taken care of?
They give you room and board in exchange for working in the shop. So basically, you're the shop assistant. You are there to assist the instructor. You're there to prep material. You're there to help students. You're there to sweep up. You're there to sort scrap. You're there to clean toilets if that's what they ask you, and you have to do it. And they give you 3 squares and a bed. And you have this opportunity to learn from the best in the business for nothing. And then on top of that, be a part of that community. Be around all these people. They're wonderful opportunities.
How many of you were there doing what you did at the time?
Well, every studio at Penland has an assistantship program. So basically all the other crafts, you know, clay, wood, glass, fine metals, etc., they all have assistants. But in iron, you know, and each one usually has just one assistant for a duration of time. But that fall when I was down there, this class, because it was a complicated class, there were 2 assistants, and it was myself and this guy, Jorgen Harl.
Where's he now?
He's out in California, Northern California.
What's he doing?
Metalwork and cooking meat. His Instagram is great, man. You should check it out. He does these catered events where he'll take a whole carcass, you know, and like lean it up on some steel and cook it over some wood and, you know, cater a whole event. Yeah. It's pretty good.
I'm a vegetarian, so I'll check out his metalwork.
Yeah, you might be horrified.
It's all good. I watched David Stein do the same thing to pigs.
Yeah.
He has a big cookout for his family and clients during the summer, and it's massive.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, so that fall was him and I, you know, and again, he and I are still pretty close, you know. We talk pretty frequently, and when we get a chance, we'll visit, depending on who's on what coast, you know.
So when that ended, then what?
Well, so then I moved back to Reading. Well, moved to Reading, Pennsylvania, which is where my wife grew up.
Okay.
We thought
you had a son.
Right, and we decided that would be a good starting point because her family's there, a lot of family support, and when you're as young and naive as we were, and arrogant in thinking that, well, we got this, you know, like this can't be that hard. Having her family there to be a part of that was really crucial, man. Like we never, I don't know how we would have been able to do it without her family's help. And then it was time for me to figure my shit out, you know, like what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? How do I put a business together? How do I put a shop together? So at that point, you know, the first thing I thought I needed to do was just get a job and get some money and start making some money. And then, you know, the first job I got offered was a maintenance welder, to be a maintenance welder at a lead smelter. This like fortified scrapyard that had been melting lead since the 1890s for Exide battery. And I would say that was one of the worst 4-month experiences of my entire life. You know, it's one of those things where knowing what you want is important, but knowing what you don't want sometimes is way more important.
Yep, just as important.
And that was a huge disaster. Just the environment, the people, all of it. And then, so I was desperate to find another job because we're just trying to get our feet underneath us. And so this fab shop job popped up for this place called Amity. And I knew I wanted this job really bad. So I filled out an application and I sent it. And then I called a week later and I lied. I said, hey, I got a call back for an interview, but he didn't say when I was supposed to show up. And the secretary said, oh, I'll come in on Tuesday. So I came in on Tuesday. And, you know, I'm like 24, 25 years old. I put on a tie. This is just for a welding job in a fab shop. Because I need, you know, I'm not the kind of guy that could quit a job without a job. You know, like you don't quit a job until you got a new job lined up. So I was desperate to get this job. Went in there and convinced that guy that I was the best thing he was going to show up and interview that week, that month. And he would, you know, if he would just hire me, I could prove it to him. And I got the job, quit the maintenance job. And what was really great about that experience is this is another one of those situations where you meet somebody and they change your whole life, right? So I'm working for this guy for maybe 6 months, welding. Things are working out. I'm doing a very good job. I'm, you know, fabricating. Everybody's very happy. And it turns out, you know, he's a single guy. And it turns out he goes out on some date. I didn't know about any of this. You know, we're not friends. We don't talk. But It turns out he goes out on this date. And he goes out on a date with the mom of a friend of mine from college. And he comes in the next morning and he says, so I hear you're actually a pretty talented metal artist and sculptor. And I'm like, who'd you hear that from? He goes, Andrea Smith. I'm like, oh, Whitney's mom. He's like, yeah, we were out on a date last night. I was like, that's great. She's wonderful.
And they're talking about you.
He goes, then they're talking about me. And he says, here's the keys and the code. Move whatever you got to move into the shop. Whatever you do after hours is up to you.
Wow.
Right. So, and that was all I needed. So 4 years of working 80 hours a week. I'd work 35 to 40 hours a week for him. And then 35 to 40 hours a week for myself, evenings and weekend.
Okay, so let's back it up.
Yeah.
When you worked for, you would work for him.
Yeah.
When you, after hours, when you worked for yourself, what were you making and were you selling it?
I was making two things. I was taking on any commission work I could find. And I was also trying to make sculpture, right? Because that was always the goal with me, was to make art, to make sculpture. Through the process of blacksmithing and ironwork. And it's funny, man, you know, I look back and I was picking up a lot of work, mostly because I was, you know, it was heavily subsidized. You know, it was cheap, you know, I didn't even need to make a ton of money. And I was taking on furniture commissions and, you know, my first big architectural job, which is still up there in Chelsea in Manhattan, architectural metalworking job I did after hours, you know, went up there and I would go to his shop at 6:30 in the morning or 7:30 in the morning, work till 4:30, come home because we only lived like a mile up the road, come home, have dinner with Beth and our young son, and then go back to work by 6 and work till 10, 11 o'clock at night, every night.
So you said you did a job in Chelsea that's still there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What was that?
7th, between 8th and 9th. And it's everybody recognizes it because there's a big repose in the middle of it, of that last still from the Méliès film, Earth to the Moon. You know, it's the moon with the rocket in its eye.
Yeah.
And this was another big opportunity for me. You know, it's, man, you know, I've been a very lucky guy. When I was, you know, after I left Penland in 95, you know, after that winter and came back up in the winter of 96, January 96, I had gone back several times to teach more summer assistantships, you know, with different instructors. And then one of those assistantships I was down there was a guy taking the wood class. And he was this wealthy filmmaker in New York, owned a couple of brownstones in Chelsea, and all the summer assistants have an opportunity to give their slideshow and tell their story, you know, of where they are in life at that point. I gave my slideshow. I told my story for the school. You know, there's one night where the whole school gathers, and it's an incredibly terrifying experience. I think even now when I do that stuff, it's horrifying, you know. And he approached me after that and said, "Hey, I got a project I want you to do. You know,
Sweet.
Let me design it, build it, install it, you know," and I'm just this green kid, you know, what do I know?
Okay, it's on 25th between 8th and 9th?
27th.
27th between 8th and 9th.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there's a picture of it somewhere in my Instagram. I went back and saw it a few years ago. I was walking through town, you know, and I was like, oh, wait, there it is, you know, because sometimes.
How'd you feel?
It made me feel really happy. You know, it's still there, even though that guy has moved. He sold that building and moved. I think the new owners really love it and take care of it. You know, and it represented like the first big opportunity anybody ever gave me as an architectural metalworker, you know? It was like the first job that really meant something that I could take pictures of and use to get the next job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's big, you know, and it didn't look as bad as it could have been. I mean, I got some stuff out there that, holy shit, man.
Now when you look at it, you're like, what was I doing, right?
Oh, man, yeah. It's like, wow, what was I thinking?
All right, so you were with him for how long?
Sorry?
You worked with the
Oh, that guy? 4 years.
4 years.
4 years, and at that 4 years, I had enough. Oh, there goes the compressor. Sorry about that. I forgot to turn that off. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So after 4 years, I had what I thought was enough side work and clients and equipment, you know, because that was the thing that I did. You know, it's like I had the 9 to 5 that paid the bills. So every job I did after hours, I reinvested that money back into my shop. Bought tools, bought equipment, bought my first power hammer, you know. So after 4 years, I had enough to quit that job and move to Philly, which is exactly what I did. And then that guy, Scott Getz, who's still just a wonderful, wonderful man, rented a 25-foot straight truck and moved my shit to my shop in Philly with me.
Wow.
Yeah, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, never look for anything in return, never ask for anything. You know, and of course, every weekend I was making something for that guy out of gratitude for his house, for his business, you know, just like,
right.
You know, you got to give it back. And, you know, and I called him up a few years ago, and because I don't think I ever expressed to him how important all of that was. And how, you know, I'm putting kids through college on what I do for a living. And all of it would have been so much harder without his generosity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We can't do it alone, man.
I've never done any of this alone, man.
Oh.
Not now, not then, you know. Now I got guys that help me, you know. I got my wife at home who, like, you want to talk about help, you know. I couldn't have done any of this without her support, you know, her willingness to be poor for so many years, you know.
She didn't sign up for that.
Yeah, and never complained, never a day, you know. Never for a minute.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So how big was your shop when you moved into Philly?
500 square feet.
Where was it?
On 2nd and Poplar in Northern Liberties.
How long were you there?
2 years.
And then where'd you move to?
To where I am now, on Masher Street.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how big is this shop?
8,000 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't start out with 8,000 square feet. You know, it's funny. Again, I met somebody. I did a small job for him, and he's still one of my close personal friends, you know, and he said, hey, I'm thinking about buying this building in this other neighborhood, and it's got a bridge crane in it. And it's kind of big, but I'm going to chop it up if you want to rent part of it with the bridge crane. I'm like, yeah, man, that would be great. I don't need a forklift and all this stuff. And so then I moved in here and started out as renting it. And then as we grew, I just kept taking over more and more spaces as they became available and knocking down the temporary walls until we took over the whole thing. And then he was nice enough to sell it to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Wow. Wow.
Just a good guy, Charlie Abdo. We'll call him out too. Just again, another incredibly generous person and a very dear friend, you know. And
yeah, you had some great people in your life.
Dude, I've nothing but great people in my life, you know.
Life is relationships.
Yeah, a lot of great relationships, a lot of great friendships, you know, and I think I could always do a better job of expressing my gratitude, you know. And maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Just reach out to as many as I can. Say thank you.
Right. Get off here, go sit down, have dinner, write a list.
Yeah. But you know, and it is, you know, maybe that is something I just wanted to mention, you know, like so much of this business for me has always been about the relationships and the friendships and even just like the clients, you know. Some of my best clients are relationships that have developed over decades, you know.
Yeah.
Friendships, you know, as they've moved from one firm to another and they, you know, they get to a new place and they see an opportunity and they call me up.
Keep giving you a call. We had another conversation with Jared Rustin. He bought a place outside of Stanton, I think it was. And he said that the client said, we know we're going to need work. And they bought a building and they fronted them $30,000 and say, we get to work later. And they believed and trusted them. And, you know, that's what it's about, man.
It is. Yeah, it is. And it's like, I don't think there's any magic formula, you know what I mean? I think you just got to.
It's good energy.
Joe, just be gracious, I guess, you know.
Yep. And work hard.
Work hard. I think, you know, it's awkward to pat yourself on the back, and I don't like to do it, but I think the one thing that I've done well is I've worked hard.
Yeah.
And,
you know,
and I think people respond to that, and I think that's where a lot of the opportunities come from.
Yeah, they say hard work and luck go hand in hand. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, I agree.
And as far as patting yourself on the back, man, what we do can be lonely sometimes. And you got to pat yourself on the back.
Sometimes it is very lonely.
You have to be able to pat yourself on the back because it's tough.
It is
really,
tough.
really difficult.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what project are you most proud of? And don't tell me, oh, there's 10. There's not 10. There is one that you look at and you just like Rocky when he got to the top of the stairs. What project is that?
It's everything I do at the Bernathen Cathedral.
That's the cathedral where you are now.
Well, no, that big cross was for St. Joe's University. That's a new chapel.
Okay.
So, but one of my more regular clients, and you know, there's so much more than that these days, is this cathedral up in the northeast, you know, like suburbs of Philadelphia. It was built in, you know, they started in the 19 teens, but they really wrapped up in 1928.
Wow.
And I've had a relationship with them for about 10 or 11 years now. And the work that I do up there, you know, it might be one or two small projects. We're going up there tomorrow to install a major piece of metalwork and glass, you know. they're not my biggest client, but they're my most important client. And the work that I do up there, I think, is some of the work that I am most proud of.
So why are they your most important client?
It's first of all, it's the environment, you know. So there's a lot of metal work that was done there by the Smiths. You know, there was a blacksmith shop just at the cathedral that did metal work at the cathedral for 40 years.
Wow.
And it is some of the most incredible metal work I've ever seen in my life. It's all forged out of a very special metal. It's a very uncommon architectural metal called Monel, very expensive way to make things. And to kind of be in that environment with that metalwork and that history, to me, is like, I made it.
To be a side there.
I made it. You know, this is like, I can't see there being anything more special than that. And it's forever. You know, it's, you know, you know, we work in some people's homes, and, you know, nothing is forever. Everything has a shelf life. I don't care what anybody says. But I think the work at the cathedral, and because they have such a huge endowment, you know, it's a very wealthy museum and community, and they take care of their stuff, and they were gifted money by the person who built it to take care of it forever. And so I know everything that I do there will be closer to forever than probably anything else I've ever done.
Right.
And they give me full creative license as long as it kind of fits the genre, which is fine with me. There's always opportunity to express myself a little bit in there. And they're some of the most wonderful people I've met, you know. I'm not a very religious person. And it's ironic that I get all these liturgical projects. And a lot of people who might know me from when I was maybe younger and a bit of a hothead.
You know what that is, right?
But they call that
God working.
That's divine intervention, yeah. You know, because I used to shoot my mouth off a little bit more about being a non-believer, and you know, I've had to revise a lot of my opinions,
right?
Just because I'm getting older and maybe, you know, not as arrogant, but it is work that I love, and it's funny because, like, yeah, I'm not a church-going guy, I'm not a very religious person, but I love liturgical work in a way above and beyond most of my other projects. I love the symbolism. I like having the conversations with the stakeholders. I like to hear about their.
You're contradicting yourself, right?
I'm a walking contradiction.
All right, because the first thing you said was I'm a non-believer, right?
Yeah.
And then you talk about all these wonderful things about the institutions that believe.
Yeah. No, I have tremendous respect. You know, I have tremendous love and respect. I think one of my biggest regrets is that I've just never had faith. You know?
But you do.
Well, not in the institutions that we, you know what I mean? I have faith. I have faith in people. I have faith in my friends. I have faith in relationships. You know, I have a lot of faith in other people. But just like that idea of religious faith is something that I've always struggled with. But I love religion. I'm fascinated by it. I like talking to people who have a lot of faith. I like to hear their stories. I like to hear about their doctrine. And so that way I think it's a good fit. You know, I don't have a cynical bone in my body with respect to those communities and their faith. There's just nothing but love and respect. I just am coming at it from a different place, I think.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so you've been in your current shop for how long?
Since 2002.
What is your biggest challenge?
Well, nowadays it's the gentrification. You know, what
those damn white people.
Fuck, they're the worst, man. And
so,
it's like the white people with stupid money. You know, it's not even. It's like, sure, $600,000 for this condominium next to a metal shop. I'm sold. You know. And then you go to like a neighborhood meeting and you're like, you know what? I hate all the warehouses in this neighborhood. And you're like, well, buddy, they were here before you got here. You know? Right.
Do you get problems from the neighbors?
Not yet.
You see it coming.
Well, you know, the most recent building that went up right up against the one wall of the shop, and you know, and so far the neighbors are pretty nice, And I think the fact that we're a metal shop and there's quirky noises coming out of here during the day is a novelty. I was a little worried about it during the shutdown because everybody's at home. You know, normally
it's a lot more quiet.
Right. Normally we come to work, they go to work. You know, we try to keep business hours. If I'm coming in on a weekend, you know, I won't start running anything loud until 10 or 11 o'clock. We've always had you know, my shop like completely wraps around one residential building. I guess he was a holdout 50 years ago because this was an industrial space that did micro polishing for Cramp Shipyard. And so there's an elderly gentleman in that house, and he's been there since before we got here. And so we've always tried to be respectful of him, you know, and not work too late. And if we're going to make noise on a weekend, wait till it's a reasonable hour. But nowadays, you know, a lot of these people work from home. Now they're all working from home. You know, we got this bigger forging hammer in the shop that shakes the floor out on the sidewalk.
You know what?
Yeah, it shakes the whole building, and it's on a proper foundation. You know, everything's done properly, but we're like, our soil situation is a lot of clay, so the vibration just carries, you know.
All right, so we have 14 minutes. Can we get a shop tour?
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm in the forging shop. Let me see, how do I do this? Here we go. So this is the forging shop.
Okay.
Let's see, what do we got here? Forge, little tiny baby mechanical hammer that I love so much. It's so cute. It's like a little sewing machine, this old Champion.
Listen, if you find another one that's small, that's for sale, let me know.
This is the smallest one made by Champion. This is a number 0. It's a 35-pound ram weight. But if I see one, I'll let you know. That's a repose of my friend Andy Donor back there that I got to finish one day.
Wow.
This is a newer hammer. This is a 150-pound Chinese make. A lot of people like to shit on these hammers because they're Chinese, but I actually love it. This is my daily driver. Runs great, real workhorse, and we beat the living hell out of this thing. Double coal forge.
Wow. How big of stuff are you heating on that big stove?
Well,
on the forge,
just like basically this is for small stuff, you know.
Got it.
This is the actual spot. Like big pieces of metal go in this big forge here.
Okay.
This is, you know, just load that up with steel, you know, and run production. This is another hammer. This is a Turkish hammer. This one I've had the longest so far. This is a 110-pound ram weight. Actually, I don't use this one very much anymore. I'm going to sell it to my friend Andy any day now. And then this is a real one. This is the Massey 3 counterweight. And, you know, I don't have emotional feelings towards inanimate objects, but I get real close on this one. This is a...
There you go again.
Yeah.
I mean, don't want to do.
This thing is, man, it's the best power hammer in the world. And this one's damn near close to 400-pound ram weight.
Wow.
And it just runs like a top, and it's, you know, we can run really big tooling in here and make some pretty crazy stuff.
Let me ask you,
Yeah.
What tool have you made using one of those that you use the most?
Well, I've built some of my own tools. Like there's a sheet metal hammer that I made myself. I don't know if you saw that whale sculpture I built last winter. This does almost like automotive body panel shaping.
Okay.
This is a hammer for shaping sheet metal panels, like big curved, you know.
Right.
I use it for sculpting because the buy one is, you know, they used to be hard to find 20 years ago, and now they're more common, but they're like $40,000 for the real ones. And so I just made my own. I also built this hydraulic press too.
Wow.
Really early in my career. And this is all the tooling we've developed for it over the years, man. It does everything. Forming, forging, doming, creasing, you name it. And, you know, because we built it, you know, inventing the tools to do whatever is not that hard, right?
Right.
You can make the tool, you can make anything to fit inside it. You know, your only limitation is your imagination.
Yeah.
Here's the bigger part of the fab shop floor. Roll bender. This is for bend and angle iron and tubing and channel into rings and semicircles. A couple of welders. Here's a set of plate rolls. This will curve plate up to 1/2 inch thick.
Woo.
Like this stuff over here, this staircase. We're actually taking it apart today. We got to put it in next week. 100-ton punch press. All these platen tables. You know, the company, Weld Sale, that makes these platen tables is 4 blocks from here. And they're actually our welding supply company. And we have a really great relationship with them. So we are hooked up with Weld Sale Platens.
Yes, you are. Those things are costly. I looked into one of those. Like, nah.
Yeah, they're super costly, but this is the most costly thing, having enough of these clamps. This table ain't shit without a couple of hundred of these clamps, you know?
A couple of hundred?
Well, we got a lot of tables. We're just in one half of the shop. Every space, like even the forging shop has a small version. And every table's got to have 20, 30 of them, you know? If there's a project, you know, one of the pet peeves here is like you're working on a project on one table, and then somebody comes through and they need more clamps on another table, and then that guy's pissed off because he just lost 3 clamps that he needed, you know? So we just make sure everybody's got clamps.
Keep peace in the shop.
Yeah, exactly. This is a job that we're working on now. We don't actually get into too much stair building, but we took this one on because it was a challenge. You know, there's that picture that you posted of it, like kind of up, you know, this floating stair. And we were like, well, that looks real hard. It's going to cost this much money. And the guy went for it. So we decided to do it.
Yes, you did.
But like structural work and stair work like that, it's not a really big part of what we do. Unless it's interesting. You know, it's like one of the things that, you know, one of the mantras of this shop has always been like, the more difficult and bizarre, the more we want it. You know?
Right. Yeah.
We just like a good challenge, you know. And this is our Nold install kit for tomorrow. This is all the tools that we got to bring up to the shop site.
Listen. Let me interrupt you there.
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to take us through the whole shop?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's hop off.
Yeah.
And let's get back on to restart the clock.
Oh, you got it. So there's a 1 hour timer?
It is a 1 hour timer.
Okay.
And I kind of wanted to get the shot within the 1 hour.
Yeah.
But I don't want, because if we get cut off and I can't properly close it, I lose it.
Okay, let's do that. I'll hang out and hop back on when you repost.
Yep, yeah. So you all come right back. We're gonna get off, restart the clock, and come right back on. All right. Thanks, man.
Yep.
All right. So let's give a couple minutes to have the people come in.
Yeah.
And then we'll continue it.
Hey, look, it's Greg.
What's up, Greg?
What's up, Steve?
Milano Glassworks, what's up?
Yeah.
I am McCarthy, what's up? Jeff,
Andy's
what's up?
back. Hi, Andy. Stephen Daly.
What's up, Stephen Daly?
Hey, Michelle. Hey, Greg.
MTS 64, what's up?
Oh, yeah. Hang on, Greg. Shop tour. Hey, Frankie. Man, I had a dream last night. You're going to think this is funny. I had a dream last night that all these blacksmiths showed up at my house for a party. And I was getting upset because I'm like, guys, I don't think we can have a party right now because, like, we're not allowed to gather in groups larger than 10. And it was just more and more and more people showing up, you know? And I just had this moment. I'm like, oh, wait, that was an anxiety dream about this.
What's up, Philadelphia Table Company?
Oh, yeah, we do some work for that guy. He's like another slab top furniture maker.
What's up, my brother?
We do. We got actually a couple of customers like that these days. Challenge Program out of Delaware is another shop that we make a lot of legs for.
Cool.
And that's a cabinet shop and a furniture spot that takes at-risk kids out of Delaware and teaches them, skills them up in a wood shop. And, you know, the idea is to kind of keep them out of the system, and they have an overwhelmingly successful
What's up, Beth?
Program.
Tall Timbers. All right, let's get it cracking.
All right, so back to the shop.
Back to the shop.
All right, so forklift. This is actually one of my favorite paintings by my friend Mark Brodzik. I've had it for 20 years hanging in this shop. And you can see it's like kind of cut out and dimensional. But
what's up, Greasy Luck?
Anyway, what's that?
Greasy Luck just came in. I said hello.
Oh, hey.
Glenn Gilmore, what's up?
Hey, Glenn Gilmore. So this is our install kit for tomorrow, you know, and I think all of the hinges that, okay, I'll pull one out.
Wait a second. I don't see any mask.
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked.
Okay. All right.
Bag of freshies. Yeah, man, it's like a whole new way of like learning how to, you know, interact. And
it's a new world, man.
Yeah, so this is our cutting line. You know, we basically just, well, we have this Ellis saw, and then we got a cold saw on the other side of the shop. I've owned 3 of these over the years. You know, you can get replacement parts for them, but at some point, you know, they just get so trashed, it's easier to buy a new one. I'm a big fan of that company and their service. They've been really good to us over the years. So I'm always happy to plug Ellis Saw.
What's up, Bliss Woodworks? I am Pigeon.
Yeah, for sure. Drill press. I like this drill press. It's got a gearbox right on the top. Change all your RPM speeds. And it's what I also like about it is it's very quiet. Do you hear that?
Slightly, yeah.
Yeah, it's super quiet. In a shop full of noisy stuff.
So you don't like changing belts, huh?
Sorry?
So you don't like changing belts, huh?
No. Fly press over here. So here's the platen in the forging shop. Here's this little reposé that I'm working on today. This rubber chicken.
So how do you do that?
Well, it's sheet metal. And you see this stuff here? That's called pitch. And so basically you raise a form with hammers, and then you chase it back in with all these little chisels and punches.
What's up, Thomas Campbell?
Yeah, just like, you know.
We Evergreen.
Delineate the forms.
Wow.
Yeah.
J.W. Paris.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And so this is like, you know, I make these tables that have these reposé tops in them. And so this is a new piece that I'm working on. Here's the apron for this table. Some textured steel. I worked on that the other day. And these are the legs that I'm working on for them. These are forgings. You know, they're actually, everything from here forward is excess, right? So they kind of get cut off here. And then they'll get mounted down here. So it's more of like a traditional table style. And then a couple other little doodahs and stuff like that. And then the lights are off in this shop, but it looks like we can see pretty good with the camera. So here's our Pullmax. This is a sheet metal machine that does all kinds of grooving, joggling, shearing.
You work with a lot of sheet metal?
Well, the way we work with sheet metal, you know, we're not doing like, you know, molding, cornice molding and stuff like that.
Right.
This is more of we look at this more of a sculpture tool. I can, you know, when we get into the office, I'll show you some of the prototype things that we make. But, you know, this tool, incredibly versatile. We use it for everything from mocking up like deco molding profiles for sculptural pieces to how we texture and form up like leaves and flowers on projects like that.
Wow.
And then just, you know, just a lot of crap here. You know, when you make big sculpture, you don't sell it, you get to own this bullshit forever. You know, horizontal press. So there's another hydraulic press. This one's horizontal on a bed. This is actually one of our favorite tools. All the tooling goes back there.
Wow.
Bead blasting station, some more storage.
I just went and got some. I have some metal. I need to take off the aluminum oxide. I need to take off the film, and the gentleman told me I needed aluminum oxide, and that stuff was $50 for 50 pounds.
And what was this, at a bead blaster?
Yeah,
yeah, I think we, Yeah, like we, you know, when it's big stuff like that big cross we just put up at St. Joe's, we just send that out. You know,
yeah, I got to do like 40 pieces.
Yeah, it's like these are just for like little parts, you know, and you know, there's our biggest cabinet. I think we can get 40 inches in there.
That's a big cabinet.
Anything bigger than that, we just take it up to the other guy, you know. You know, for a bunch of years, we used to do a lot of manufacturing for a retail client.
Okay.
You know, we used a ton of stuff for Urban Outfitters back in the day. What else? More platens. Lots more platens. This is our machining area.
Wow.
Milling machine. And then under the tarp, here's a lathe. You know, we always put blankets over the machine equipment if we're doing any grinding, you know. Oh, watch out. It's kind of a small lathe, but we don't get into a whole lot of machining here, like big stuff. We just, you know, little turret tailstock. This is why I bought this lathe. I never seen a non-turret lathe with a turret tailstock like that.
I love that tailstock.
Yeah, it's real good, and it indexes, you know, real nice. Let me see if I can get it to index. Oh, you know what? I need two hands to get it to index. Can't do that right now.
That's fine. That's fine.
Toolbox. Let's see. You know, more stuff that I made that I can't get rid of. This is.
Your reception's fading. Wherever you are, better now. Okay.
And I think I'm running low. Run into the office a little bit. Lights are off in here too. But so in the office we have, you know, a draftsman, office manager, and myself. Most days if I can't get out on the shop floor, and then just go up here. This is like my little hidey hole up here.
How many guys do you have?
6. 4 on the floor and 2 in the office right now. So this is the upstairs, the office, and this is, you know, all of prototypes and samples and, you know, things that we've done over the years to show clients, you know, architectural molding, grill samples, legs, you know. Here's a good one. This is like little bat wings and baby doll heads.
What's up, Nora Reed, Glenwood Woodcraft, West Coast Rockin' Waterfall, M Branch.
Prototype forgings, material samples. Oh, these are cool. These little stamped Ben Franklin heads we used to make into belt buckles. I'll send you one. Send me your address. I'll make you a belt buckle.
All right, done.
You know, and then some of my other table sculptures.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a big monkey repoussé in bronze. And then here's, let me get this pig head on this. piece
Some
here.
David Stone.
So these pieces, you know, this is like that reposé bronze plate, and then, you know, all these forgings that I like to do. You know, this is, if I can get out of the shop floor, I'm usually working on this kind of stuff.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Presses, what's up?
What else? Oh, so here's that Polmax machine. You know, here's one of the examples of things that we've made on that Polmax machine. We run this. We made tooling and made this profile, just running strips of
Noli, what's up?
Job.
Eric the Smith, what's up?
Hey, Eric. Yeah, and that's, you know,
it's pretty cool stuff,
table,
man.
Computer station.
What machine or two have you had the longest?
What machine have I had the longest?
Yes.
I think at this point, it might be this little 180 amp MIG welder. You know, I've gone through a bunch of power hammers and equipment, and, you know, I'm always upgrading and getting rid of the last thing. But I think that might be the longest. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, the Sahindler, that one small hammer that I'm getting rid of, I've had that since like 2004.
Okay.
So it's, yeah. I don't, you know, if I upgrade something, I never hang on to the old piece. I just sell it.
Gotcha.
You know?
So you're not attached.
Yeah, this thing I've had since 2004. That might be the hammer I've had the longest at this point. I used to have a lot of mechanical hammers before I bought that one. You know, but then, you know, I switched to self-contained pneumatic, and I prefer to do all my forgings with self-contained pneumatic. I think it just suits me. I know a lot of guys have different opinions about what they like. You know, some guys really think the mechanical hammers are better. I will never say that they're wrong. I just have you know, it all depends on what you're doing and how you make it. And, you know, for me, power hammers are like this. They're like a tooling platform. You know, I'm not the kind of guy that just draws a lot of tapers under a power hammer. That's not the kind of work I do. It's all about the tooling, you know, which is why I have very wide dies on the hammers so that they could support a variety of tooling. This is all power hammer tooling.
No Globe Brooklyn, what's up?
So, you know, but mechanical hammer guys, you know, they're not very tooling reliant in the same way. So, yeah, there it is.
Beautiful shot, man. Thanks.
It's, you know, you're looking at 20 years of putting it together, so it always looks impressive that you're coming in at the end of it. You know?
What would you say you're missing in your shop?
Nothing at this point. There's nothing I want.
So you're good. Everything you want to make.
I think I have. Are you asking what tool I'm missing?
Yeah. No, you answered it. You have everything you need.
I think so.
So there's nothing you want to make that you don't. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So there's nothing that you want to make that you don't have the tool for.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Like even these like big laser tables and plasma tables, there's so many vendors out there that just do that. I couldn't even buy the material for the parts I get back sometimes. And so then you're going to sink $250,000 into this big piece of machinery that takes up, you know, 1,000 square feet of real estate for what? You know, we draw the part, we email them the file, and, you know, truck shows up a week later, and we have our part.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who like machines, but the guy that I work with, Ortiz Weldon here in Hawthorne, I send them something. If it's not right, they correct it. We go over it, and they get it to me fast. It makes no sense for me to get into that.
Yeah, and Ortiz, they've been there forever. I mean, I remember them from when I still lived in New York.
Yeah.
They've been around a long time.
Yeah. And Matt, is going to be third generation.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
the grandson is there working out, and he's excellent.
Wow.
He's a mastermind. The dad is good too. He's a lifelong welder, but the son, Mark, is the mastermind.
Wow. That's so great. I saw that on your post that you were up at Ortiz, and I'm like, wow, man, they're still in business.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and thriving. Yeah.
Yeah. That's super impressive.
When I went in that yard and had to get that water out of the yard, we threw it in Ortiz's truck. Matt came to help me. Yeah, so I'm pretty cool with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're good guys.
It's funny, you know, when you have these multi-generation businesses, because with my kids, man, this is the last place they want to be.
My son, the same thing. Only thing he wants out of here is the money. And maybe some furniture for his apartment.
Yeah. No, I mean, when they were young, I made them, you know, the rule was when they were still in high school that, like, you got 2 weeks to find a job when school ends. And if you don't have a job by then, you start at the shop that next Monday. And for a bunch of years, they just couldn't get their shit together. And they would work here all summer. And I would, you know, and like, we wouldn't give them cherry jobs. They'd be with some crew doing, you know, my son actually turns out to be a pretty good fabricator. He's actually a half decent smith. But he could give a shit about it.
What does he do?
He writes encryption software for the Navy.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Forest Cove, Palm Beach, what's up? Kenneth Shapiro, what's up? Brandon Builder Parts, what's up? So are we missing anything?
I don't think so, man, except maybe a thank you. Like, thank you for putting this together, and I appreciate being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure,
It was
man.
more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
sorry.
good. You have a pretty amazing story, and that I think that is what makes a conversation is having a life well lived that you can live to tell about.
Yeah, I'm pretty, man. I feel real lucky. That's all I can say. I feel real lucky. You know, I've got a lot of good people around me, and it's good to share it. You know, and tell a story about it. So
and I appreciate you sharing it because I wanted to hear it.
Awesome. Well, good, man.
All right. Okay, so let me ask you, right? Light talk.
Sure.
Favorite musician?
Oh, man. Well, it changes a lot every couple of years, but the one that I keep going back to time and time again is the Melvins, man. It's this like metal punk band that, you know, I had this friend in college, Andy Wilhelm, you know, and he's a sculptor. He teaches up at Cooper Union. And I remember when he handed me that tape that day outside the sculpture studio, this Melvins Houdini tape. And he's like, I think you're really going to like this. And it was almost like, you know, I've been waiting my whole life to hear something this rad.
Tree Evergreen asks, what can your shop produce that others can't? His touch. I'll let you answer that.
Ooh. I mean, I think it's the combination of skills here. You know, like there are a lot of shops that focus on one particular area of a lot of different things that we can do. You know, from, you know, that's actually a buddy of mine who works at a preservation architecture firm. So we've done a lot of reproduction hardware. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. We've done a few projects for him where we've reproduced existing items. You know, we could do that all the way up to fabricating, like you see, like new contemporary metalwork.
Palmer, what's up?
I think, you know,
what's up?
The forging end, and at least how we do the forging end, is a bit of a unique attribute to the shop in this area, you know. There's a lot of shops out there, and boy, there's a lot of better shops than mine out there. That's for sure.
Do you ever have apprentices that come in and want to learn and work?
You know, we've had it's weird, man. You know, when it comes to the forging side in my particular talent or the particular skill set that I think that would draw people here, I'm just not available enough to be a good mentor that way. You know, I'm running a business.
Now, let me give you my unasked for opinion.
Sure.
You know, you're supposed to, right?
Supposed to what?
Give back in that way.
Well, I teach.
Okay.
I teach college blacksmithing, college level blacksmithing, you know. I give back, but like in this environment, you know, somebody could come in and, you know, I've had people, most recently, there was a woman that came through here who is great, talented, smart, you know, and ultimately I don't know that this environment, you know, and the kind of work that we were doing was something she was ultimately, I think she came to learn it wasn't something that she really felt as passionate about as I did. You know, and there were these moments where I think she was really looking to me to just give more of myself, but I could walk in here and the ceiling, you know, we got good ceilings, but it's like the ceiling is caving in and there's water coming in through the windows, you know, and the earth is opening up and I got all these problems to solve and it's chaos.
Okay, wait a second.
Yeah.
Now, this question I've been wanting to ask everyone that I've had on, and it just came to me while we were talking about this, right? Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to pick one. I'm going to give you the answers, and you pick one. Right?
All right.
Okay. Do you consider your shop A, wine and cheese, 2, beer and burger, or 3, water and bread? My shop is water and bread.
We're like burgers and wine.
Okay.
A lot of whining going on. Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of bread and butter, nuts and bolts work, and a lot of it doesn't even show up on our Instagram because, frankly, it's not super impressive. Maybe there's some part of it that I'm excited about that I'll post. Like right now, one of the jobs we're doing is a bunch of restoration work at a national cemetery for the VA.
Okay.
And, you know,
now
you and I talked the other day, you know, it's like, despite everything that's going on and how you might feel like, you know, I'm a patriot. I'm a liberal, but I'm a patriot, you know, and I'm a proud American. I like doing service work like that for the VA. And because it is a lot of restoration work and we're doing new work, and it's not the most glamorous looking metal work we'll do all year.
Right.
It's not super complicated. It's not, you know, it's not, it's just boring ironwork.
I think there's a lot of guys that I've talked to before, I have a conversation with, guys like Steel and Grain, Matt Cremona, Paul from Canadian Woodworks, Alabama Woodworker, and a lot of those guys are heavy on content. Now,
How do you mean?
Steel and Grain does content and works, but they all do. But they're content heavy because they do the YouTube thing. And what I'm realizing and what I'm trying to do more of is, yes, there are some things you do that you don't want to show because you don't want people calling you for that.
Yeah.
Jared Rustin, Jay Rustin, the California guy talking with the building, he built a table that had some reclaimed wood legs on there. It was nice. And his thing was, I don't want to show this because, you know, he has a furniture line, he does high-end custom stuff. He goes, I don't want to put this on Instagram because people are going to be calling me asking me to do this for him. He goes, I don't want to do this.
Right.
So as much as we need to create content to develop our social media and get more people to our page, which draws more people to our website, you still have to be careful about what you put out there.
Yeah, you know, and this is like, you know, when I was on Instagram the first 4 months it came out, you know, and it was a real different game back then. You know, I think this is 2013 or 2014, somewhere in there. And it was just like this interesting way for me to share what we were doing with the other blacksmiths that were friends of mine that lived in different parts of the country. And it slowly evolved into this business tool.
Miguel, Kofi. Right.
And so sometimes I don't always think of it as a business tool first. You know, I still post a lot of personal shit on there. I think that's a big part of my business too. You know, the personal shit, the work, my life, you know, my family, it all goes together.
Right.
But I always try and put content out there that people would find interesting, you know, metalwork, like, and like I talked to a kid today, you know, about how to do something. He's got a new shop that he's opening, or has a shop that he's opening up, and he makes, man, if you're looking for the guy who's dialed in the office partition business, this kid's got it, man. Like, I saw what he was doing, and I'm like, well, I'm no longer in that game. We can't do office partitions anymore because this guy clearly has it dialed. But anyway, my point was, like, he reached out to talk about something he didn't know how to do, and I'll share anything, and I'll answer any question that way. You know, I'm happy to share what I know. There was one guy a few years ago that got real pushy because I didn't answer him right away, you know, and then got mad at me when I was like, dude, stop stalking me. You know, he likes calling the shop, sending me personal messages, like commenting on other posts that had nothing to do with what he wanted to know. You know, it was, you know how it gets.
Yeah.
And then you got to block a guy, as you know. But there was only one of those, you know, just in all the years, just one of those.
All right, that's good. All right. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for calling. It was great chatting. And
same here.
Come up and see you. Send me your address.
All right, will do, brother.
All right.
Thank you very much. Man. And everyone, thanks for joining. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
All right,
Bye,
brother.
Haley.
Good night.
Good night.